Hi, this is Steve talking today about what makes you unique as a writer. Now, you may hear people talk all the time about this idea of brand. What's your brand? Who are you? And essentially, it may sound really daunting, but the bottom line is there is already something that makes you unique and different from other writers that you know or that other people know. So how do you decide? How do you figure out what your brand is? Well, one thing to know is, as I've said, it's already there inside you. And the thing to know is that there's a way to suss it out for yourself to discover what you can say makes you different from other people. So, for example, almost any writer can say, I love writing. So that's not your brand. Or I love writing horror, which is a little bit more specific, but that's not your brand either. You might also say, I love watching, writing comedy that deals with human uh, interactions and foibles. Well, maybe that's a little more specific, but it's not as specific as you want to be. In order to put forth an idea of how you are unique and how you are specific in your writing, I have a little formula that really helps me out. Now, one thing that the formula does is it takes something from the past, from your history, and it connects it to your writing and also to the goal of your writing. So, for example, if you were to say, let's say you like horror, and the reason you like horror is that you grew up in a funeral home. So you might say, I was raised in a funeral home in Nebraska. And because I would imagine I heard bumps in the night all throughout my childhood, I love to write about people who are either dead or almost dying or the undead in order to discover what people who are ghosts or zombies might be like and what they might be after by connecting with human beings, right? So I'm just making this up now, but you see how this is a unique perspective. Somebody whose life was shaped by some childhood issue, who discovered then that in their writing, they wanted to write about who those dead people were in order to enhance their ideas about what dead people want from the living. That's a specific brand. And you can see that if you tell a story like that, suddenly maybe there are many kinds of TV shows that you might connect to. You might connect to a show like The Walking Dead. You might connect to a show like Ghosts, which is a comedy that deals with people who are dead. You might deal with or connect to any one of those shows, maybe the American Horror Stories franchise, or any one of those haunted Hill House kinds of shows. And so in the world of horror, you might not connect, say, to exorcism shows or to vampire shows or et cetera, et cetera. So this is one way to be really specific about your brand. Now, it isn't to say that you'll only ever write things that go into that particular space that you talked about, but it does give executives and writers and showrunners a way to think about you. And if you come across with a memorable story like the one that I just made up about your life, then you've gotten people to remember you. And once they remember you and perhaps have a good and juicy conversation about the thing that you talked about, your childhood, what kind of writing you do as a result, and what you're looking to do with that writing, then perhaps as they remember you, they'll remember you for staffing. They'll tell your agent or manager, if you have one, how interesting it was to meet you, and you will be seared into their memory. So that's the opportunity to brand yourself in that way. So the formula, again, is something from your past, perhaps childhood, that motivates and informs your writing today, and that gives you something that you're always looking to do, solve, or discover through that kind of writing. You can do that with any number of stories from your past, from your childhood. And just know that if you do that well enough, you can get people to remember you. So one way to get there is just take out a piece of paper or on your computer, write down a number of things that you remember from your childhood or from the past 10 years, or an odd job you had. Were you a mountain climber? Were you a Boy Scout? Were you, whatever it is? Did you grow up in a funeral home? Find how that connects to the kind of writing you do today, and then give that a motivation so that all your work, say, is trying to discover this sort of thing about this kind of person. I want to know what the dead wants with the living. And those sorts of things become really compelling. I believe you can create that kind of story for your brand if you just think about it, make a list of all those things that happened to you in the past, think about your writing, and create or discover a motivation for why you write that thing, and put that in the story that will put you top of mind for an executive or a writer or anybody you meet who asks you about your writing and what kind of work you do. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel here, which gets brand new information, brand new videos every single week. And go to yourcreativelife.com to find out more information about coaching, a free newsletter, a podcast, and all sorts of other things that I'm putting forth to enhance your creative life.